Good evening, folks. Apologies for starting slightly late. We're going to allow a moment for folks to join here, and we will get rolling. So let's give it another minute or two here. Thanks for your patience. Okay, so we've got 38 attendees here, so I think we'll get started. Good evening, everybody. My name is Brian Hacker. I am a planner with the City of Chicago's Department of Planning and Development, working on the west side and managing larger development projects, among other things, such as this project. The proposal we're here to review tonight, which is the Chicago Fires Performance Center, located in the 28th Ward in Plan Development 896. So I'm going to give a brief introduction here before we hand off to the development team. So first of all, I'd just like to introduce the major players that are going to be involved in this project. I think first of all, I'd like to introduce our partners at the Chicago Housing Authority to say hello, and they're represented by Anne McKenzie. So Anne, if you want to take it away and also introduce your, hand it off to your team members as well, please.
Sure, and good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Anne McKenzie, the Chief Development Officer at the Chicago Housing Authority. We're excited about this presentation tonight, and we're very excited about the housing we're bringing back very soon to this site also. And with me is Daniel Cruz.
Yeah, Dan, you want to go ahead and say hello? Just
Sure. Good evening. My name is Daniel Cruz. I'm Chief of Staff at the Chicago Housing Authority. I'll be helping Ann McKenzie, our Chief of Development, answer questions.
Thank you. And from the Chicago Fire, we've got Paul Cadwell. So Paul, you want to say hello and introduce the other, hand it off to any other members of your team?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. My name is Paul Cadwell. I'm Senior Vice President of Programs and Facilities for the Chicago Fire. And this evening, I've also got Doug Osborne. He's one of our project managers on the call. So I'll pass it over to Doug.
Thank you. And yeah, we're also, believe we're going to be joined by our local elected officials. This is in the 28th Ward, as I mentioned, which is Alderman Jason Irvin, and also bordered by the 25th Ward, which is represented by Alderman Byron Cicho Lopez. And I see Trina from the 28th Ward. So I wanted to allow either you or the Alderman's office to speak here. So Trina, let's see. Are you able to unmute and speak? Okay, it looks like here. Okay, sorry about that. I think you should have been a panelist, but you should be able to speak now.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, just to take a moment to make sure everyone knew that I was in. My name is Trina Maver, and I'm Chief of Staff to Alderman Irvin, and I'll be joining in the meeting this evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Trina. Yeah, and additionally too, so this is obviously a partnership between the City of Chicago and the Chicago Housing Authority. as well as the Chicago Fire and other partners, as well as this is a large redevelopment area. So I wanted to yield the floor here to the CHA to allow them to speak to their role in the project.
Thank you so much. And again, I'm Ann McKenzie, Chief of Development. Just a bit of background. The CHA has been working with our development partner to bring housing back to this site for years. We know that. And we're very excited to announce, which we've announced to a number of people, that we're working toward the start of construction of 3 new buildings that's going to close this year. That's going to be 222 new units of housing are coming back to this site, 80 of which are for CHA families. It does not mean we are done in any ways bringing housing back, but we're also building community here. So many of you are familiar with the Taylor Street Apartments, which included the library, and we are excited about the prospect of the Chicago Fire joining us on this site so that we have housing, schools, libraries, recreation, neighborhood shopping, all of those things are part of a community. So we look forward to hearing your questions and look forward to working with the Chicago Fire.
Thanks, Ann. Yeah, and I also want to call attention to the fact that the CHA has done a fantastic job of engaging with the community in this area. We held, I should say they held multiple public meetings that were involved in this area earlier in the summer. I don't have the exact dates before me, but they also sat down with their local stakeholder groups and addressed a lot of questions. Alderman Irvin was heavily involved with that. So on that point, I do want to specify that we would like as much as possible to keep the content today related to the project that's at hand here. So the plan for this is to, the fire proposal is to move ahead to Plan Commission. And we've been working with them for quite a while now to refine their plans and get it ready, and working with the CHA and other partners, as well as hearing community feedback. So this is an opportunity to review those plans and really offer feedback and ask questions about what they're proposing for this site. So with that in mind, we do appreciate a respectful dialogue in these meetings. You're able to use encourage you to use the Q&A function here. I see that plenty of folks are already hitting that and typing in some questions. I'm going to allow Paul and his team to provide the presentation on the project before we get around to the Q&A, as you saw on the agenda on the previous slide. So just ask you to keep your questions related to the subject material. We do want to have an inclusive dialogue here, and we've allotted plenty of time to do that. But that doesn't work if we can't be respectful and can't have a respectful dialogue here. So, had really good luck in past meetings around this project, and we'll just look to continue that level of respect and cooperation among everyone involved here. Oops, sorry, I got a little out of order here. Anyhow, I just want to take a moment here to introduce the site. As you can see here, outlined in the gold is the project site. So this is a 24.2 acres of land that's mostly vacant currently. There's green space there, and it's adjacent to the Park District's Adams Recreation Center to the southeast. There's also a number of CHA properties that surround it that are currently occupied. To the west, there's a significant amount of big box retail, as well as some educational institutions on the west side of Ashland Avenue there. And then to the northwest, you start to get into the medical district, the UIC, and Rush further up the street. And this is a fairly well-served transit site, being close to the Ashland bus corridor, as well as Roosevelt Road to the north. And the pink line is in proximity. From a zoning perspective, this is in plan development number 896. And so as you can see outlined in that kind of aqua color there, this is a very large plan development. It includes a lot of residential uses in it, as well as some others, institutional and commercial. So this, although this is a large site, it's just one portion of an extremely large planned development, one of the largest ones in the city. You know, as Anne referenced, there's a lot of work going on in that planned development to redevelop housing there. And so just to take a broader view here, this larger area is referred to as the Roosevelt Square development. CHA has a master plan for this area. It's on the site of what's called the ABLA homes, which is an acronym for 4 housing developments that have been all been demolished and are now being redeveloped in other projects. And if you look at those images on the right, those are renderings of 2 projects that were recently approved in fall of 2021 for construction along Roosevelt Road and in other areas of planned development 896. So just wanted to provide a little bit of background of the area here, and before we get into the FIRE's proposal. And with that, I'd like to hand it off to Paul. So let me just stop sharing my screen here, and you should be able to take over, and we'll let you get into the details of your proposal here. And then we'll take questions after that. So I appreciate everyone's patience.
So thank you very much, Brian. Thanks for the introduction. I'd also like to thank the staff and of Alderman Irvin and Alderman Lopez for joining us this evening. Thank you for CHA, DPD, and everyone else that's attending this evening's meeting as we look forward to presenting the proposed development for the Chicago Fire's new performance center. So who we are. The Chicago Fire Football Club was formed on October 8th, 1997 on Navy Pier. This year marks our 25th season and our 25th anniversary. We are the men's professional soccer team that plays in Major League Soccer, and we've won 6 championships in our brief history. And we look forward to adding to that success in the near future. Who we are as people. We have roughly 200 people that work for our club that operate out of 3 locations. Currently, our front office is based at 1 North Dearborn in the Loop. Our sporting operations is located in Bridgeview, and we have a recreational soccer facility located on the north side of the city at Tolman and Addison, which is opposite of Lane Tech School. In addition to the young, dynamic, and diverse staff that is inclusive and passionate about their roles, we also have 28 professional first-team players and 100 youth academy players that represent our club and our city. Our players and coaching staff speak 11 languages and hail from 5 continents. We truly represent the city of Chicago and the world's game. On this current slide, we are highlighting our head coach, Ezra Hendrickson, and 10 of our homegrown players who are all from Chicago. Currently, 11 out of 28 professional players on our first team are from Chicago or the surrounding areas. Our owner, we have a local owner. Joe Mansueto has fully owned the club since the fall of 2019 and immediately transitioned the club back to the city. Since Joe purchased the club, we have moved back to Soldier Field to play our games. We've relocated our front office into the Loop, and we have made a substantial investment to increase our community and soccer programming within the underserved neighborhoods of Chicago. Making our home in the city is imperative to our club. It would be remiss of me if I didn't mention our Chicago Fire Foundation. The foundation has won numerous awards, including an ESPY and the coveted Robert Woods Johnson Foundation Award, to name a few. The foundation's purpose is to make a positive impact in children's lives through the sport of soccer. Whether that is creating safe environments to play the sport or community programming that helps children reach their vision of capability, the foundation has done great work in the city of Chicago, and we look forward to working with the community on the near west side to understand their needs. One of the questions that we have undertaken regularly in all of our community outreach meetings, whether those are in person or virtual, is what is a performance center? I can start off with what it is not. It is not where we will play our games. We will continue to play all of our professional home matches at Soldier Field or SeatGeek Stadium. We will not be hosting games at this site. Fans and visitors would not have unsolicited access to this facility. What is a performance center? A performance center is a place where players train to prepare and recover to improve their performance on the pitch. The performance center will house our soccer operations staff and players who will move from our training facility in Bridgeview to this proposed new site. Components such as technical training, strength and conditioning, injury prevention, and recovery are all focuses of the Performance Center. In addition, the Performance Center will be the focal point for individual and team development of our academy youth players as we prepare them for professional and collegiate level. Game analysis and scouting have become integral to maximizing an individual and team's performance, and this will also be housed at our Performance Center. Finally, all the staff that are behind the scenes will call the Performance Center home. Equipment, medical, operational, and football administration will all be based here. Probably the second most popular question that we receive: why the city? Why the Near West Side? Quite honestly, these types of developments do not normally get built within major cities. If you look around the world, they are built in suburban or rural areas, but our owner's commitment to do this on the Near West Side is indicative of how we want the game of soccer and Chicago Fire Soccer Club to make a difference within the underserved neighborhoods of our city. It would be much easier for the club to move to the suburbs like everyone else, but that's not who we are. Tapping into the skill set and passion of the people of our city is what will drive us to the next level. We are committed to making a difference in the lives of young people and communities through soccer. In neighborhoods across this city, soccer brings people together, fostering a strong sense of history and community while showing immense passion for the game. We have shown our commitment to the city since 1998 and have made significant contributions to enhance the quality of life through Chicago, investing $6.8 million into community programs, CPS after-school programming, 50 mini pitches built within the underserved neighborhoods of our city, and a recent commitment to invest in a community center within the North Austin community shows our passion for helping this city. Having our performance center on the Near West Side would allow the Fire to have an even greater impact through increased free programming for children, new and improved facilities and amenities for the neighborhood, and a long-term partnership between local residents and the club. To follow on from Brian's maps and information he was sharing about the site boundary, this slide highlights the boundaries of the proposed development. All of the boundaries are offset from the major streets surrounding the project. Washburn to the north and between 14th and 15th Street to the south is where this development is proposed. Ashland to the west and Loomis to the east. Due to the process we have undertaken with the residents, CHA, and Alderman Irvin over the past 10 to 12 months, this site plan has changed from its original plan. The new site boundaries take less acreage, which allows CHA to develop the land in the future. The program site with some more detail. This slide highlights how the proposed performance center fits into the adjacent community. The building, our main building on the site, is aligned north to west, will be offset just off Hastings between Washburn and 14th Street. The fields are located between Washburn to the north and 14th Street to the south, and are offset from Ashland and Loomis, as I said previously. Parking will be available to the west and south of the building. Also highlighted on the slide, CHA developable space north of Washburn and south of 14th Place. The pedestrian cycle corridor from Loomis to Ashland. The William Jones parking lot development, which is part of our community investments. And other community investment space adjacent to the Jane Addams Resource Center, which Chicago Housing Authority, the Fire, and residents are still discussing and exploring. Also highlighted on this site map is the Jane Addams Rec Center, the Bethel Community Church, and the existing community garden to the north. What are we looking to propose on the site? A training facility, a building which will be two-level building. Sorry, this slide highlights in more detail what we are proposing on the site. 5.5 soccer fields, which three of those are synthetic and 2.5 are grass. The most northern field closest to Ashland will we utilize in the winter and put up an inflatable dome. This dome will be put up in early November and taken down in mid-March. All fields will have lights, although only 3 fields will be used in the evenings. We are proposing a 51,000 square foot building with 2 floors. And currently around 148 parking spaces for staff and players. Our first team players and staff will be utilizing the fields and building during the days, and our academy players and staff will be mid-afternoon into the early evening. Complementary community soccer programming will also be programmed after school and weekends. We will be working with the local residents and community to schedule those times. Academy youth teams play their games on Saturdays and Sundays in the morning and early afternoon. First floor will be the sporting side of the club. Locker rooms, medical space, workout space, hydrotherapy, and video rooms to prepare and recover our players from the extensive workload that we put on them. The second floor is a mixture of office, cafeteria, and meeting space for our sporting operations group. The club has been engaged with Alderman Irvin, the Mayor's community team, Chicago Housing Authority, the ABLA residents, and the ABLA LAC for close to 12 months, and have attended 10 plus virtual and in-person meetings, in addition to being present in the community for different events and programs. This will be our 5th public meeting after conducting 2 in-person meetings with ABLA residents, an in-person meeting hosted at the ComEd Rec Center for the wider community, and a virtual meeting hosted by Alderman Irvin. This year, we also highlight our commitment to the community and hosted 2 week-long free soccer camps for children from the community. We also worked with the ABLA LAC to hire community counselors from the residents for those 2 weeks of camps. This is the start of what we hope will be a long relationship with the people within the community to foster engagement and development. This year, we were also proud to invest and sponsor the ABLA Fun Day and meet even more residents of the ABLA family who congregate every year to put a great day on for the children prior to school beginning. Our foundation is committed to building a basketball within the ABLA footprint, and we are working with residents in CHA to determine where that will be located. Chicago Fire Football Club, on an annual basis, will be offering 10 paid internships within our sporting, business, and community teams. And those details are being organized with the ABLA LAC, community consultants, Wanty, Alderman Irvin, and Chicago Housing Authority. Additionally, we are proud to launch a mentorship program for 16 to 18-year-olds, which is part of our commitment to the neighborhood. Giving the youth an insight into working within sports and professional sports while providing opportunities to be mentored is currently being designed with the same input from all of the constituents mentioned earlier: ABLA LAC, CHA, Alderman Irvin, and the Chicago Fire Football Club. If the proposed development does get approval, we'll be working with our local community consultants to set up career fairs and days so local workers can be identified, and we will be meeting all, if not surpassing, all MWB requirements for the project. Through our consultation, it was important that we had a pedestrian greenway connector that went east to west from Loomis to Ashland. These renderings show that connection. The east to west access for pedestrians and cyclists from 14th Place on Loomis to 14th Street on Ashland. This street will be lit, and the pedestrian greenway connection will be tree lined as shown in the rendering. As we move through the rest of the presentation, some of these slides show renderings of the proposed two-story building and our soccer fields. When it comes to a timeline, we are currently working with the city, CHA, DPD, and local residents in the upcoming days to go to the September council meeting for approval, with construction work starting on our site in late winter or early spring of 23. I thank everybody for listening to the presentation. I will stop sharing the screen, and Brian, I believe that we are going to open it up to questions.
Yeah, thanks very much, Paul. And actually, I think too, if you don't mind, maybe leaving up that last image, it would probably be a good idea for you to be able to, reference the plans in the question and answer session. So yeah. I think that, leaving it on this slide here would be a great idea, because it provides a really nice overview of the project and what it entails. So yeah, let's move to the question and answer session. Although too, I wanted to allow Alderman Cicho Lopez an opportunity to speak. I know that he had some difficulty joining earlier, so you should be able to unmute and speak. Are you there, Alderman? I just asked you to unmute, but well, okay. So I will, sorry, folks. We'll hold off on that and get into the questions. We've got quite a few questions in the Q&A. You should also be able to raise your hand, and I would give you the opportunity to speak if you'd prefer to do it that way. So I'm just going to get going at the top of the Q&A here, and if we kind of start running out of time, may answer some of these via text, but hopefully we can answer them all verbally. So the first one is from Chris White. If this land is used for the facility, where and when will the promised housing be built? As I mentioned before, we do want to keep the questions related to the fire project, but we do understand that this is a question a lot of folks had. So Anne, if you can jump in and take this one, that'd be great.
Gladly, and thank you. This is obviously the question that's always on my mind. As I said, we are working on what we call phase 3B right now, and it will close this year. It's a total of 222 units, and 80 of those are for CHA families. Then the next phase is we actually have re-looked at the entire site. So this PD looks at the entire plan development and allows for all of the housing to still be focused on the CHA land, but we can also go in the immediate vicinity. And timing depends on tax credits and financing.
Thank you, Anne. So moving on to the next one, do we have a number about what price the Chicago Fire is willing to pay for use of the land from an anonymous attendee? Paul, do you want to take that one, or Anne or Paul? Whatever you prefer.
Since I'm the one working on the term sheet, we're still negotiating the term sheet with the Chicago Fire, but it is based on professional appraised value.
And I do want to just add also that this is a fully privately funded project.
Yes, yeah, I can confirm that there are no incentive programs that are being applied to this project from the city's perspective. Okay, moving on. Another anonymous attendee. Could the alderpersons each say how they feel about the project? I know that we heard from Trina earlier, representing the 28th ward, and we've got Alderman Cicho Lopez. But Trina, would you like to hop in here and mention if Alderman Irvin has given a letter of support to this project?
this time, a letter of support is on record. Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. Unfortunately, Alderman Irma isn't present in the meeting to speak to it directly, but yeah, there is a letter of support. And again, Alderman Citro Lopez, I don't know if you're available to speak or if you're having any kind of difficulty, but are you able to unmute and join us? All right, well, maybe we'll get to hear from him later, I hope. Next question, is there a labor peace agreement both for the construction and the operation of the proposed facility? Paul, is this one that you would be taking, or someone on your team maybe?
Sorry, I need to unmute myself there, Brian. At this moment in time, there isn't, but that is part of our negotiations on the term sheet.
And can I help too? The CHA, it does require, and actually the Chicago Fire has already started talking with our workforce development team. So we do expect them to hire from CHA, and then of course you, Brian, can talk to the DBE requirements of the plan development.
Yeah, absolutely. So the city does require with plan development projects like this a 26% MBE participation and which is minority business enterprise, which are businesses certified to meet certain ownership criteria, and then a 6% WBE participation, which is women business enterprise. And again, businesses have to apply for that certification and provide evidence of it. And then we have a section of our department that confirms that in the budget and the invoices. So the next one, and this, apologies, Anne, but this one came in earlier. So could Anne repeat the percentages again? Do you recall what that was referring to?
I think it was when I explained that the next phase is 222 units in total and 80 are for CHA families. So I think Anonymous is simply acknowledging that we do mixed income housing. We don't have a set percentage. Anonymous, you probably know a lot about court cases and everything. But as I said, that's that next phase. So no, there is not a set percentage. And we don't go on a phase by phase basis.
Yeah, and I would like to add too, from the city perspective of this plan development ordinance, it does call for mixed income housing that includes CHA developed housing, privately developed affordable housing, as well as market rate residential units as well. So I'm going to move over to Bob O'Neill here. You have your hand raised. So I just gave you permission to speak. So Bob, if you'd like to
hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, one, I think the project's a great idea. I hope it's as green as possible. Chicago has a shortage of trees, and with climate change, the temperature of the city is 6 degrees warmer. And so we need as many trees as possible. And so I think that's really important in a project like this. The fact that this does take up other land, I understand, but I want to make sure that the development, mostly which will be concentrated near UIC, that UIC is very involved, and that it truly be mixed income. And that means you have to, we're probably the most diverse neighborhood in the city, by the way. People from all over the world, all different backgrounds, and I want to make sure that we keep that with the new development that'll be north of Taylor, and it's going to be a lot more dense, but it has to work. And so successful mixed income means mixed income and all kinds of different people. And I'm really hoping that we really balance this. Market rate is usually the more difficult aspect of it, and we really supported the library on Taylor, and that's mostly low income, I think about 90%. And, again, we want these all to work, and we need to make sure there's mixed income and that it really does happen. And hopefully UIC, being the largest public university in the city, a massive public university, and Taylor Street connecting its east and west campuses, that they're very involved in this, and maybe some of their students live in some of the new housing, and really balance this so this becomes a model for mixed income that truly works. And we want to keep our diversity, and we want it to be successful. And I think that's incredibly important. And Taylor Street is suffering considerably, and we need UIC to be more involved, and maybe some of their students who are low income and first generation students can be involved as well, to create a healthy multi-generational, multi-race, ethnicity, and people from all over the world. That's what we have now. I mean, we truly have that in the UIC community. And so the connection, and I apologize, because I know you want to talk about just your development, which I think is wonderful. I'd like to see more trees, but it does create that issue with more of a concentration, and I want to make sure that that's a healthy one. That's all. And it seems, and I think Alderman Irvin has been very good about that, and I've talked to him many times, and he really understands that that's essential to have that balance. So I thank the CHA, and I thank Department of Planning for making sure they just consider that.
Yeah, thanks for your comments, Bob. This type of project doesn't happen in a vacuum. I'm going to take a first, shot at a response here. As we've already discussed, in depth here, CHA is obviously very active in this area. We haven't mentioned Related Midwest, who is the selected master developer for Roosevelt Square. That's partnering with them to bring projects to fruition. But it's not just this area as well. We work very closely with the Illinois Medical District, located just the west. That's and here, Bob, if you don't mind muting there, or actually I was able to do it for you. That's another area where there's a diversity of land uses that are coming in, where there's a lot of institutional and some retail there right now. But I know that they're really focused on making that a more walkable, pedestrian friendly area where there is some residential use. I know that in the past, we've also had conversations with folks in Tri-Taylor around there about, they're heavily involved in the, new development that's coming their way. If you start to look south of the railroad tracks, particularly the Department of Housing is, as well as DPD, is involved in redeveloping a very large plot of vacant land there that I know Alderman Cicho Lopez is, also a strong partner in. So, broadly speaking, I think that there are a lot of efforts being made to tie these areas together and to make it a place where folks can live, where they can shop, but then also a place where people are working. So it's a complex mix of land uses that we're looking to reconcile here. And to the comments about it being a green site, I think as you can see here in the plan, the Fires development does leave quite a bit of green space there, particularly to the south there. It's not part of the site and what's being developed, but there will be some green space that's left there. They are exceeding the number of tree plantings on their site, which I was very happy to see. So to your comment about that, I think that they're doing a good job on that front. And I'll stop there. Anne, did you want to say anything, or Paul, either one of you jump in here?
Yeah, I would just add, Brian, just following from Bob's comments, is that our club has a very positive, long-standing relationship with UIC, with the athletic department, with the soccer teams. And if we do become neighbors in the community, then we look to double down on that relationship, not just with the sporting arm of UIC, but would also like to explore all different types of avenues where we could build that relationship.
Thank you.
And then just one last follow-up. I think
Sorry, we got to move on to. There's a lot of questions, so I apologize, but I want to make sure that
please take advantage of UIC though. I mean, that's a huge advantage that is sort of being ignored. It's very important, and the medical center. That's it. I'm done.
Okay, all right. Appreciate your comments. Just want to be fair about our usage of it. So the next question here, did CHA attend community feedback, the community meeting earlier this week about this project from an anonymous attendee? Anne, I'll kick that to you.
I can answer that. This is Dan from CHA. We didn't have a community meeting on Chicago Fire this week, so.
Okay, all right. I apologize. I'm not. Yeah. If
no, that's fine. Yeah, no, happy to clear that up.
DPD meetings that were involved in this project that occurred, so I unfortunately can't speak to that. But if you feel free to drop a more specific question in the chat there. So I see that folks have their hands raised. I'll also be sure to get around to them as well. I'm just going to take one more here. If from the Q&A, if plan commissioners vote against it, will they have their commission removed, as has happened the last few years? Plan commissioners are obviously free to vote up or down on a project. You know, I know just from the DPD perspective that not every project gets approved with a consensus vote. So it's certainly possible that plan commissioners could choose to vote against this project if they feel it doesn't meet the the zoning criteria or the goals of the plan development or the city's greater goals for this community. But I can't speak to whether they'll have their commission removed. That's not a decision that our department makes or any of the players in the room here. So let's see. I will like to go over to Karen Morton. I just gave you the allow to talk feature.
Thank you. I just want to know and have a question about how or when there will be any conversation with the churches who are right in front of this proposed development. Because based on what I'm looking at in this proposed development, for our church, which is right on 14th and Ashland, it's going to cut off some parking access. It's going to cut off access to the rear of the building. And in the building where our church is located, there are also residential apartments. And no one in the building has ever been talked to. And I heard a lot about, talking to the CHA residents, which is great. But what about the other people?
I can answer that. And Patty, if you guys have done some outreach, please feel free to add what I'm about to say. But we had a broad community meeting in early May that was open for the entire community. CHA has also had direct conversations with Bethel Mennonite Church.
Okay, my church is not Bethel Mennonite Church. My church is New Garden Missionary Baptist Church, and no one from the city of Chicago has said one word to us.
Okay, I'd be happy to take your information and reach out to you after this meeting.
And Daniel, I would say the same from the Chicago Fire. We've been working with our community consultant, Wan Teague, to reach out to as many people as possible. So if there has been no reach out, I will be sure to reach out after that. I also don't believe that access will be cut off from that church. I believe there's still going to be the same access today, tomorrow that you have today.
Yeah, and again, Karen, I would just echo the comments that at the end of this meeting, I'll put my contact information up. I can put it in my email in the chat too. the public alley that exists behind that church there will not be vacated or closed. 14th Street will not be closed. In none of the public parking that currently exists on either 14th Street or Ashland will be removed. So nor will this project encroach on the property that your church currently occupies. Does that help clarify?
It helps, but it is still very intrusive and just very rude from our perspective that no one even reached out or considered to reach out to talk to our church.
Yeah, well, as part of the PD application process, notification letters about an upcoming public hearing are mailed out to all the property owners within a 250-foot radius of the development site. But I will admit those go to the owners. So if the church is like leasing the property, it wouldn't, like say go directly to the leader of the church. So yeah, we do apologize for the lack of communication on that, but glad we're able to make this connection now. And I'm happy to take any follow-up questions or comments that you might have, as is Paul representing the development team here.
And
so
Brian, just to add to that, because I just to get a note from our community consultant that they did reach out to Pastor Hallam, whose wife's name is Terry. And so there, I don't know if there was some backwards and forwards that didn't get followed up on, but I've just spoke to one, and we will be following back up with Pastor to answer any questions that they have for the Chicago fire.
Please do, because they are on here right now and they haven't had their questions answered.
Okay.
Then we will make sure from the fire's point, we'll coordinate with DPD and CHA to make sure there's a coordinated follow-up.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Karen. So I would like to move on to, let's see. Well, Vernon has a hand raised, and then there's also the next question that's up in the Q&A is from Vernon. What are the plans for the property at 1501 West Roosevelt? So I can say, similar to the discussion with Karen just now, the development site, the northern boundary of this, which the streets aren't exactly labeled on this image, but it does stop south of what would be Washburn. Paul, if you don't mind pulling up the site plan or something that shows the street network around it, I think that would be helpful. So this one should not impact the property that's located at 1501 West Roosevelt, which I looked up. It's at the southwest corner of Laughlin and Roosevelt. So the fire's proposal would stop actually, a half block shy of that. And Vernon, let's see, I'll also allow you the chance to speak here in case we're not addressing your concerns or your question.
Okay. I'm here. Can you?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I had concerns with that property because before it was made public that the fire would utilize the property of the former CHA, we were contacted by someone who wanted to purchase the property, and they had a super low offer, but this was before the announcement of the proposed site for the fire. So I'm just curious as to if the fire would go all the way to Roosevelt Road, which I think they should. That would be a big access and frontage on Roosevelt Road, just like the UIC, St. Ignatius Hospital, FBI. So I'm wondering if there's something going on for somebody to actually give you a lowball offer before a proposal. And now that you guys say you're not going to Roosevelt Road, what's going to happen to that property, that whole strip on Roosevelt Road from Loomis to Ashland that's owned by private owners.
I can help with that. So quite a bit of it is owned by the CHA or the City of Chicago. And we would be doing some infill housing there because, as we said earlier, housing is the most important thing. And we actually like doing housing around Roosevelt. It would be mixed use probably, and we are working with Related Midwest on the land that we own.
So you plan on purchasing land from private owners?
We have not decided.
You haven't decided.
I'm your contact if you want to talk about it.
Great. What's send a direct number, please?
Just put my email in the chat. How about that? Can we do that, Brian?
Yeah, and you should be able, if you go to the chat, you should be able to share it to everyone. I was actually just going to put mine in the
Right.
yeah. Okay. I all set there?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, we do need to keep moving on. So thank you for your question and comment. So from an anonymous attendee, can't the sports team afford to purchase private land? Sorry for the laughter. Just so Paul, maybe you could just more speak to the reason why the fire is interested in this site that's CHA owned as opposed to a private site.
Yeah, it's to be part of the community. You know, as we were searching throughout the city, our own commitment to building and working with the city, we identified this site, and through communications with CHA and the residents group, it was obvious that we could make a positive impact by developing on this site. And as everybody knows, there's not many large acreage sites left across the city. So the conversations with CHA and the residents led to a positive dialogue that we've just built onto the point that we're at today.
All right. Thanks, Paul. So yeah, continuing here, got a comment from Dan Johnston. Green space in the public park is not vacant. How are we planning on mitigating the loss of established tree cover and open space available to the public? Dog park, maintain paths, trails, reestablish native grassland, tree canopy, etc. So just first to make the comment, as you know, I think we've touched on here pretty well. This current land is not a public park. It's not park district property. I understand that it is used for recreational purposes, and we certainly don't want to discount that role into the community. But you know, as Anne mentioned earlier, you know, this is CHA land that you know, was planned for future development of you know, residential projects, you know, and potential reintroduction of the street grid here. But you know, we are acknowledging the fact that it's land that's used as open space and recreational purposes. And as I mentioned previously, you know, I think the fire has you know, exceeded the ordinance requirements for the tree plantings here, and you know, taken some clear steps to green this site. You know, that's something that we've been discussing with them in our design review process. I think we've touched on that, but I know that there are also other plans as well to you know, pursue some community space in the area to the point that's being raised here. So Anne or Paul, would either one of you like to go into a little bit more detail?
Yeah, just it's part of our ongoing discussions with CHA and the residents for the area south of 14th Place, heading towards 15th Street. We're working right now to determine what type of green space would be allocated into that area. What are the community needs? What does the community want to use that space for? CHA have been great in leading those discussions with the Diablo LAC, and we're going to be, you know, continuing those discussions as we finalize this plan. But the community has asked for green space, and we just need to work with CHA and the residents to determine, you know, where and what that space is utilized for.
And I think it should be noted that the CHA has been very cooperative with the Chicago Park District, and we all expect the Chicago Park District to provide access to their spaces. So it should be noted that there is a Park District facility adjacent to our site here, and Fosco Park is adjacent. So we're also working closely with them to make sure that that functions the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, and I haven't given enough recognition to the Park District as our partner in this project as well, because they do have you know, a great facility at 15th and Laughlin there with a recreation center, and they've been involved in this developing this project as well. Okay, from an anonymous attendee, is the team willing to negotiate a legally binding community benefits agreement with CHA residents and other stakeholders?
So the answer is we are negotiating that is yes, and those terms are currently being negotiated and will be encapsulated into the term sheet and the lease. So those discussions have been ongoing for 10 months, and the simple answer is yes, is that we will be putting written exhibits about what the community investments are into our agreement with CHA.
Yeah, and I'll echo that. Our plan is to have community investments as an exhibit to the lease as part of the signed lease.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, this is more a comment than a question. Saul Ontiveros said, thank you for your interest in our community when others, including the Bears, are looking to leave the city. You know, Paul, do you want this is kind of a softball thrown up there for you. I don't know if you want to respond as to, you know, I know you already stated your interest as to why the club wants to remain in the city, but
yeah, just to reiterate what I said earlier, our owner, when he bought the club in 2019, invested a lot of money to move the Chicago Fire from the southwest suburbs back into the city. You know, we moved our front office. We already have a pay-to-play facility on the north end, and we've invested a lot of money into a community center project in the North Austin community. So our commitment is there for the city. Our owner's commitment to the city can be seen in other projects, and you know, we're proud of playing in the city. We're proud to represent the city, and hopefully as we move forward, we can do more good with us being relocated on all levels.
okay. Thank you. And then I guess I'm going to skip around here a little bit because this is, again, you kind of touched on this already, but it's related. So were any privately owned sites considered for this project? I mean, as folks probably, you know, saw in the media, this is a project that was considering other publicly owned land. So, you know, Paul, maybe you can speak to like the site selection process. Was this, you know, I know that you came to the city pretty early, and as well as, you know, other public agencies to talk about this, but maybe you can just provide a little insight into that selection process and what kind of net you cast.
Yeah, so it's very simple. We want to be in a neighborhood and a vicinity in the city where we can be an addition and not a negative. And so part of our entire process has been to engage with the local residents, businesses, and institutions and community members that live in those areas. I mean, we had a very public process where we looked at the Belmont-Cragin area. And unfortunately, due to not being able to come to an agreement, it was best for us to walk away from that proposal, because as we got deeper into those conversations, we were going to impact the students that live and go there every day. So the Belmont-Cragin project, we amicably walked away. We still have a brilliant relationship with Chicago Public Schools, but that wasn't initially one of our first sites. Then as we looked at other sites throughout the city, this one being on the near west side, being close to UIC, being close to an international community, a diverse community, we felt this was just the best location for us. And as soon as we began conversations with Mary Baggett and the ABLA LAC, it became aware that there was a number of things that we could work on together to improve the community, the residents, and especially there's a big opportunity for us to work with the youth in this community. And to be honest with you, that was a driving factor. And so This being close to the South Loop was also a driving factor for us. Easy access to all the major infrastructure was a great opportunity for us.
Okay, thank you. There are a couple of questions in here around timeline, just in terms of I think, if you could address the schedule for construction and then the completion and opening as well. Not, the question is related to the opening, but if you can lay that all out, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, well, obviously it's all based on the continuing discussions with CHA and the residents of Avila, but the hope is that we go to Planning Commission this fall, go to City Council this fall to move the project forward, and we would love to really start a real groundbreaking in the spring of 2023. With the hope and goal in that summer of 24 that we're up and running now. That's an aggressive timeline. We're aware of that, but we're moving with that timeline, and we're making sure that we're encompassing all of the different components into our planning, so that all the constituents are aware of what's happening. But right now, the goal would be to break ground in the late winter, spring of 23. And late spring, summer of 24 is that this site starts to come to life.
Okay, great, thank you. To the can I go back to the earlier conversation around the lease for the land? Chris White asks, who is doing the appraisal? Can you post the appraisal documents? So Anne, is that going to be public record?
We're still in negotiations right now, so the answer right now is we're in negotiations, but we are a public agency, and there will be an application to HUD that will include these, and that becomes a public record that's employable. If that's a verb.
We do use it all the time, but maybe not so commonly used outside of government. Okay, thank you. So Jeremiah Hill asks, how can someone apply for a job? I think, Paul, that would be your topic here.
Yeah, we like I've said at every public private meet we've had, we've been very lucky to work with One Teague and One and Only, who have been great partners to the Ville and to the Avila community. And so we will be working through One. I think once we have a clearer timeline on when the project will begin, we will definitely be working with One to host those career fairs / days. And that will be within the near west side. So as soon as we have a timeline that's more clearer, we'll begin that process. And like I say, we will be working through our great partner One and Only to get that public information out there.
And Brian, can I add, if somebody is asking who is a resident of the Chicago Housing Authority, it doesn't matter whether it's with a housing trust voucher or public housing, you should also get in touch with our work office if you aren't already, because that's who can help you with jobs too. And you can say you're interested in this site.
Okay, great. Yeah, and it also, Paul, encourage you. I know you've got a good person running your community, and as a community liaison, I should say, but also encourage you to work with the aldermanic offices as well. You have great connections in the surrounding area.
Yeah, definitely. Just to add to that, Brian, I mean, working with One actually came through the recommendation of Alderman Irvin. So Alderman Irvin is being in step with our community process, and everything we do runs through his office. So we will continue to obviously abide by that process.
Okay, great. I'm going to switch over here. Mary Baggett has her hand raised, and allow her a chance to have the floor here. So go ahead, Mary.
Hi, I'm Mary Baggett, the LAC president for Avila Community. I just want to say that it's going to be a great opportunity working with Chicago Fire. It's been long overdue for ABLA. ABLA hasn't been rehabbed in 25 years. During this process of Chicago Fire starting their process, they're going to rebuild ABLA community. And they also have been great with us doing programs with our kids, giving our kids the opportunity to be able to do something in the community. We got Fosco Park, we got Adams Medill that sits in this community, and our kids don't even have an opportunity to even be a part of it. Throughout this whole summer, we had a soccer program, whereas our kids was doing soccer, and Park District didn't even want our kids to come in there. So it's really a bad thing going on with Park District over here that people don't know about, that they think our community can go into. But in reality, our community is not welcome. And Chicago Fire has been great with welcoming our children with their soccer program. And I want to appreciate them and thank them for doing a well job with our kids this summer. And we're looking forward to being a partner with you all.
And Mary, I can tell you from the Chicago Fire's point of view that we have been so overwhelmed by the process we've undergone with you, your residents. And we hope that what we've done this year is just the first step, because we really walk the walk and not just talk the talk with our community outreach. And moving forward, I think there's just some great things that we can do for the community. And I can't thank you enough for you hold us accountable, that's for sure, but we've got a great working relationship that I enjoy to build as we move forward.
Yes, indeed. And I fight nail and tooth with anybody when it comes to this community.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And it's all for the good of your residents, which is the key thing.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mary. So I'm going to move over to the Q&A here. There's two questions in a row here that, and Mary, if you don't mind just muting yourself, I appreciate it. So from Diego Morales and Vicky Lugo, there's questions around, and I know that we have talked to some of this previously around, you know, how this is going to impact future development in the area. And, you know, I would say from the city perspective, you know, if you were able to join at the beginning of the meeting, I showed the map of the redevelopment area here, PD 896. It's a very large area that includes a lot of vacant land. We have been working closely with CHA and related to, you know, discuss the impact on the master plan for this area. Alderman Irvin held a meeting with Related Midwest, CHA's master developer in this area, I believe back in July, to talk about the impacts on the master plan here. So, you know, there are opportunities to shift planned units to other areas of this redevelopment area, and to distribute that density out to, you know, some other opportunity sites. So I guess for kind of in two parts here, I think, you know, Anne, if you could address the question of how are the locations / funding / planning for all those units solidified? And then Vicky's question is more related to the fire compensating low-income residents for public housing. So I think, you know, Anne, Paul, if you could address if the fire is, you know, making any kind of contribution or, you know, extending any resources for public housing is kind of a second part.
So I'm going to start with the second one first, because Ms. Baggett beat me to it. So if people were listening to her, she made it quite clear, and this is a commitment by the CHA, that the lease proceeds and some other money actually that the fire is bringing to this will be used to preserve housing, to bring it back, as she, I think so aptly put it. So we have some aged housing across the street from this site, which is where we are dedicating this money. So this goes to our Apple Brooks Homes and Loomis Courts. And it's really important to keep housing. I think people know that, but you know, we need money for that, of course. And we are dedicated to that. The guarantee about, oh, and I'm sorry, and I think Paul did a beautiful job of explaining all of the benefits that we have toughly negotiated, and then Ms. Baggett came behind and toughly negotiated to make sure that there are other benefits. So there's a parking lot for the senior building as part of this. It doesn't show up on the plan because it's on our land, but they'll be constructing that and some a lot of community space, as well as all these jobs and this programming. So they've already started this summer. So they've had these couple of programs that have been highly successful. And then the other one was the guarantee that our locations, funding, planning for all of these units solidified. Actually, what we just did by going through this PD again with the planner and the developer partner with us, is we actually made this plan better, and we made the locations better. Do we have the funding? No. Tax credits have to be used within 2 years, and so it's a periodic thing. But as I said, we've got the next phase funded. We're planning for the next phase after that, and the alderman has made it very clear that some for sale housing is happening on these sites also. That was always in the master plan, so that is very important. So we have a plan that is better than the plan was before.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks, Ann. So yeah, we're getting down to the end here, which is good because we're also running out of time. So who is the architect, and once construction starts, what is the timeline for completion? Paul, I know that you already addressed the timeline, but if you can mention the architectural team involved in this, that'd be great.
Yeah, our architectural team is Crawford Architects. They're a well-known, nationally and internationally respected group that have focused primarily on building sports sites, whether it's performance centers or stadiums. We've been working them ever since we started this process in the Belmont-Cragen neighborhood. They've been wonderful partners of ours, and I couldn't, say more about the work that they do with us. And as we said, the timelines that we mentioned earlier, it's all just about how quick we can get through the process. But an ideal timeline for us, I just reiterate again, would be beginning construction, real construction in late winter, early spring, and an aggressive timeline, kicking a ball around on the site in summer of 24.
All right, thank you. Let's see here. Skip to the bottom here. What is the overall cost of the project? So Paul, do you have an estimated budget for development?
So the project, like we said earlier, is all privately funded, and right now we're between that $75 to $80 million cost range. But yeah, that's where we're at with that.
All right. And from the LICNA board, will this space be used for concerts and other types of private performances? So is it could it be rented out? Would somebody be playing a concert on one of your soccer pitches, something like that?
No, not at all. And part of our agreement with the community is that we will host community events there. So things like the ABLA Fun Day that we sponsored this past August, community soccer programs, but no, there'll be no concerts or those types of things being brought on this site.
Okay. Okay, so this is kind of a broader question, I think, about the Roosevelt Square development area. So why mixed income when our neighborhood desperately needs low-income housing? This is from Matthew Joint. When our neighborhood desperately needs low-income housing based on the median income in our community and extending south to Pilsen, which will also be heavily affected by this development. Citywide standards, which are culled from median across, I'm assuming that means median income across the city, regularly outprice our most vulnerable neighbors in need of housing. UIC and surrounding developments have already produced a myriad of medium and higher income housing options. Why do we need more? So obviously there's no residential being proposed in this project, but so I think, Anne, this is kind of a broader question related to Roosevelt Square as to why it's a mixed income housing development that it includes market rate.
And as a policy, the Chicago Housing Authority, when we're developing new family housing, we make sure that it's mixed income. I do want to say though, I'm so proud to be at the CHA where we actually provide subsidies. So we are able to provide housing for people who are those really rent burdened families. But we think rent burdened families, just like other families, deserve to live in a community with a variety of people.
Okay, thanks, Anne. Phyllis Logan asked, when did this conversation start with public participation? I referenced earlier that CHA had done a lot of outreach about this, but Dan, if you're still here, I mean, I was going to say, I know we had some meetings back in in May, late in the spring, but I know that you can give a more detailed answer to this timeline question of public participation.
Yes, we announced that this discussions early phase. We announced it publicly in January. We then approached the CHA resident leadership in the March-April timeframe and had meetings with the resident leaders. And then we had broad public meetings in May. And there's been other engagements that have continued, but those are the large main engagements. But we've also had meetings. There's been meetings with Alderman Irvin. There's been meetings with DPD and such. So there's been numerous opportunities for folks to participate in the various agencies that have had, whether it be CHA, DPD meetings on this matter.
Thanks, Dan. So I can also say to you, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to just share the presentation, my presentation here. So speaking of that and just the next steps here for this project, this is planned to be our final public meeting. We've, in addition to the, many public meetings that CHA hosted, DPD also held a public meeting, in cooperation with them, where the project was presented. So we are looking to move this to Plan Commission in September. That date is September 15th, but that's also a public hearing. Folks can testify about the project in that meeting. And then if it's recommended for approval, it would go to the Committee on Zoning on September 20th and go to City Council for a vote on September 21st. I've also included my contact information on that slide there, so feel free to send me an email or call at the contact information shared there. I can also say too that there are several questions around the materials being shared here today in the recording. So I will send around a PDF of the slides that were presented today, as well as a link to the recording from this meeting to everyone who registered. So even folks who weren't able to attend, as long as they registered for this meeting, you'll get that information. I can also export out a script of the Q&A so folks can see all the questions and that were asked, as well as all of the responses that were typed into the Q&A box. So we've got 5 more minutes here and a handful more questions. Let's see, I think most of these were answered. So Sherry asked about the meetings in September here. So Plan Commission is the public body with the city of Chicago that, obviously there are city laws around what projects trigger a trip to Plan Commission, because this is technically an amendment to the Plan Development Ordinance for PD number 896. So that does trigger a trip to Plan Commission, but generally speaking, Plan Commission hears larger development projects or say zoning changes that may have a significant impact in the community. And, the commissioners represent the planning and development worlds, there's real estate developers, zoning attorneys, community representatives. So it's a fairly diverse body that hears those projects. And they will vote on whether to make a recommendation for this project to the Committee on Zoning. So Plan Commission does not give the final stamp of approval. It will then move to the Committee on Zoning, which is a smaller subset of city council members who will consider a project and again, review and decide whether it should be sent to city council for a ultimate stamp of approval. So once this project, if it is approved at city council, Paul and his team are then able to, move ahead to pull permits on the project. So, these steps allow a community engagement process for larger projects rather than allowing, developers to just go straight to requesting permits, basically. So a couple more questions here. I think we can just knock these out. To Don's question here, there's been a lot of conversation that was already had in tonight's meeting about how this site was selected. And I think that Anne and Paul have really provided a lot of detail around that process. So from Pierce, again, I think to this final question here, this is information that we really covered in depth in this meeting. So I do appreciate everyone's questions and comments. We certainly don't mean to, overlook anything, but certain subjects have been covered in depth here tonight. So, Anne, Paul, we got a couple minutes. If either of you would like to just make any closing comments, feel free to do so now.
Thanks, Brian. Just yes, I thank everyone for taking the time to listen to our proposed development, and just reiterate the Chicago Fire's commitment to working with the community, the residents, CHA, to make sure that this is a project that the whole area, the whole neighborhood can benefit from. So we're going to continue to have that process. We've got a couple of follow-ups from this evening's meeting that we will prioritize and then go from there. But I just want to thank everybody for being here this evening, and our partners at Diablo LAC, CHA, and the Mayor's Office, as well as DPD for getting us to this stage. And don't forget Alderman Irving, who has been a big supporter of the process. And so we're very thankful for everybody's commitment to working on this project over the past 12 months or so.
I just want to thank everyone for their public engagement and their interest. It's always wonderful to see people actually do care about affordable housing in the city of Chicago. And affordable housing is a big part of community. So we look forward to working, we hope, with the fire. And thank you to our resident leader who has stayed on this, Ms. Baggett, and thank you to the elected officials who've been so helpful. But really, mostly, thank you to you and the community and to the residents of ABLA and Loomis who patiently work with us as we plan to bring back more housing to this great site.
Okay, well, we're right at 7 o'clock. Thank you for those final comments. As I mentioned before, my contact information in the chat and on the screen. So, we welcome any additional feedback that there may be. And yeah, thank you all for joining us tonight. So have a great night, and the information will be emailed out to everyone who registered. Try to get it out by the end of the day tomorrow. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you very much.